This is Ed Rodgers, and I'm here to show you how. It's all connected. The purpose of my unique news program is to show how all the issues we face today are in fact connected. One decision can have far-reaching consequences affecting many people in many ways. Today I'd like to focus on the abortion issue. Let's set aside the moral and emotional dimensions and focus solely on two devastating consequences of over 1 million abortions in the U.S. every year since Roe v. Wade legalized abortion in 1973. We'll look at the effect of abortion on our economy as well as our ability to survive the Islamic goal of world domination. My guess is that most people have never considered either of these two. Let's start with the economic impact. Economists tell us that Medicare and Social Security will be in deep trouble in the very near future unless we raise taxes, cut benefits, or drastically overhaul the entire system. One reason for the impending crisis is that abortions since Roe v. Wade have eliminated a huge number of workers who are needed to support the beneficiaries of these two massive programs. According to Social Security statistics, in 2008 there were 3.2 workers for every retired, disabled, or survivor beneficiary. By 2030 there will be only 2.2 workers per beneficiary, meaning that the taxes of 2 people will have to pay for the benefit that 3 people's taxes covered back in 2008. Neither individuals nor the economy will be able to bear that kind of tax burden. The elimination of millions of future taxpayers and contributors to our economy has undoubtedly contributed to the entitlement mess we're in today. Had those babies lived and matured, as consumers, they would have become contributors, earning, spending, saving, investing, inventing, and paying taxes, adding productivity and innovation to the workforce. And many of those children would have had children of their own by now, becoming productive members of the economic community. Since Roe v. Wade, we have been robbed of an estimated 57 million children. Economically, this means fewer teaching, manufacturing, and healthcare jobs, providing goods, services, education, and healthcare for those kids. That means fewer schools, plants, and hospitals are being built and staffed. Can you see a pattern here? As a result of removing that staggering number of lives, the population and the tax base are far smaller. The number of those eliminated equals the population of California and Texas combined. Given an average federal tax revenue of approximately $8,500 per citizen, and assuming that those aborted would now be productive taxpayers, and here's the bottom line. The U.S. economy is losing roughly $202 billion per year in tax payments due to abortions, according to 2012 statistics. We can argue over the exact numbers. That's not the point. The point is that over 1 million abortions every year is having a devastating effect on our economy. Now let's turn our attention to the effect of abortions on our ability to survive the Islamic goal of world domination. Not long ago, I came across an Islamic blogger who explains how Islam will dominate America. He gave 3 possibilities. First, the majority of its citizens embrace Islam and implement Sharia on their own accord. Or a group of Muslims rise, overthrow the government, and implement the Sharia by force or a coup. Or third, the Islamic State carries out jihad as its foreign policy and removes the government. With the rise of ISIS, we can see numbers 2 and 3 being carried out right before our eyes. By now, we should understand that these are not the words of some random radical who misrepresents Islam. This represents mainstream Islam, and the plan is well on its way. Islam is growing at a phenomenal rate. How is this happening? Primarily through birth rates. This is where abortion comes into play. A recent YouTube video made some dire demographic forecasts regarding the growth of Islam, especially in Europe. According to research, in order for a culture to maintain itself for more than 25 years, it must reproduce at a rate of 2.1 children per family. Historically, no culture has ever reversed a 1.9 fertility rate. A rate of 1.3 is impossible to reverse. Let's take a quick look at Europe before focusing on the US. In 2007, the fertility rate in France was a mere 1.8, in England 1.6, Greece 1.3, Italy 1.2, and Spain 1.1. Across the entire European Union of 31 countries, the fertility rate is a mere 1.38. Historical research says that these numbers are impossible to reverse. In a matter of years, Europe, as we know it, will cease to exist. Yet the population of Europe isn't declining. How can this be? Immigration. Who's doing the immigrating? Muslims. Since 1990, 90% of Europe's population increase has been due to Islamic immigration. Add in the current invasion of hundreds of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees, most of whom aren't even from Syria, and the situation is about to get a lot worse. For Muslims throughout Europe, the growth rate is 8.1. With multiple children by multiple wives, Muslim men are seeing to it that their new homelands become flooded with Muslims, and who knows how many will become terrorists. In southern France, traditionally one of the most populated church regions in the world, there are now more mosques than churches. 30% of those aged 20 and under are Islamic. By 2027, 1 in 5 Frenchmen will be Muslim. In just 39 years, France will be an Islamic republic. Consider the recent attacks in Paris, and you'd think France would have learned a great lesson. That appears not to be the case. As I am writing this, French President Hollande just announced that France will be taking in an additional 30,000 Syrian refugees. Here in America, the current fertility rate is a mere 1.6. With the influx of Latinos, the rate increases to 2.11, the bare minimum required to sustain a culture. In 1970, there were 100,000 Muslims in America. Today, estimates place the number somewhere between 6 and 9 million. In 30 years, there will be 50 million Muslims living in America. The math is clear. For most of Europe, the numbers are irreversible. In America, we're right on the edge. Here's the bottom line. Eliminating over 1 million of our non-Muslim citizens every year through abortion will hasten the day when the Muslim population will be sufficient to turn our great nation into an Islamic republic. Don't think this is impossible. While the facts I presented in today's program are extremely important, my bigger point is that the ripple effect from one bad decision can be devastating in ways that go unnoticed until it's too late. I hope I have made it evident that ideas have consequences, and the consequences of ideas that deny truth can be deadly. I tried to show the reality of this in my book, Dragon Slayers. While it's a contemporary novel, world and national events have made it less fictional than I ever imagined. It shows just how deadly truth-denying ideas can be. This adventure novel finds Ruthie Hunter's search for truth ending in a battle for survival. It's available along with my other books on my website. And lastly, as always, I'll end by lightening things up a bit. So here's my thought for today. An invisible man married an invisible woman. The kids were nothing to look at either. I'm just saying. And now you know. I invite you to check out my website at edrodgers.net. That's Rodgers with a D, where you can get my books and sign up for my twice-weekly blog or newsletter. Until our next program, this is Ed Rodgers, showing you how. It's all connected.